It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
In the criminal justice system, sexually-based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
Finger down if almost 12 years ago you had a kid with a guy and you guys got married and it was an awful relationship, and you both had mental health issues, undiagnosed, unmedicated, and you were an alcoholic but you didn't know it at the time, so obviously the relationship was toxic, and you divorced. So then you moved back to Tennessee with your son, and your son would visit him a couple times a year, and everything was like pretty decent. He always paid child support on time. You still didn't really fuck with him. You didn't like him because you didn't think he was that good of a father. But for the most part, you kind of got along, but really there was just periods of time where you didn't speak at all because, again, you didn't think he was doing the best he could. Anyway, he winds up getting remarried, has a couple more kids. At the end of last year, his other baby mama leaves him. Suddenly to you, because you're not in their fucking business and you don't know what goes on in their lives. He unblocks you because he had you blocked, and immediately starts telling you all of this information about things that she said about you and whatnot. And you already know he's like kind of a liar, but you're like, you know what, like, okay, whatever, like, you didn't really like her anyway because of some shit that transpired that wasn't even really that fucking important. Anyway, so you kind of believe him, but you kind of don't. And then he decides he wants to come visit your son, and you're like all for it because your son is having like mental health issues because his dad isn't in his life as much as he should be, and he's going to fucking therapy once a week. And so you're like, yeah, of course, like anything I can do to help in that relationship. He comes and visits you and your son in Tennessee, and everything's cool. And then he's there for a couple days, and you start feeling really guilty because everything seems normal, and you're like, well, maybe we should try to work this out, like, even not romantically, like, even just as co-parents for our son, like, this would be a smart decision. We could, he could stay with us until he found somewhere to live, yada yada yada. And he's like, you know what, yeah, like, whatever. But eventually, like, one thing leads to another, and you guys wind up hooking up, okay? And so then you're like full back on, but you're hesitant too because you're like, you just got out of a marriage, like, you're not even legally divorced yet. But he like reassures you like, oh no, I'm sick. Anyway, reassures you, oh no, it's totally fine. Like, things are over between us, me and her, long before she left, yada yada yada. And you're like, okay, whatever. So everything's kind of going cool, and then your house winds up selling in Tennessee. So you're like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. And he's like, well, just move up here. Come live up here in Pennsylvania. So you pack up your fucking whole house, move you and your son to Pennsylvania, right? Where you don't have any family or friends, because your son is doing so much better, and he's like being a good dad, and he's being a pretty decent partner. Like, again, I've always hated, I hate men. I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Like, I'm smarter than him, and yet still you're like, okay, everything is going good. Our son is happy. That's what matters most. So then, that was in December. So now it's the beginning of fucking March. And this whole time he has been in like a little custody, he's going through a divorce. They're doing custody stuff, divorce shit, whatever. And he mentions a few times that he wants to move to Tennessee. And you're like, what about your other two boys? Like, they live in Pennsylvania. You can't just do that to them. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And you tell him, like, I'm not going to be with a man that abandoned his kids. That's dusty, gross behavior. I lived it. I had a dad that was absent. I saw what it did to our son when you weren't there. I won't co-sign that behavior. And he seems all for it, right? Like, he's like, yeah, like, I don't know why she won't let me be around the kids. She's scared of him. And, like, he's got some anger issues, like, whatever. But, like, I don't really think anything of it because, like, I've seen it. I beat his ass before. Okay, I beat his ass the first time we were together over a decade ago. Okay, so it's like, yeah, I've seen how he acts, but it ain't nothing that can't handle. But then also he starts working on his mental health and he changes his medication and he starts doing what you think is better and everything's going pretty good. You think everything is going pretty good. So Friday night, you and him and your son, y'all go shopping. And me personally, spend hundreds of dollars buying all kinds of shit for his other two kids because he's supposed to be able to visit them supervised. His dad has to be there. Red fucking flag. The next morning. Yesterday morning. Okay. And hold on. Okay. So you spend so much money. Because, did I mention he also lost his job like a month ago randomly. But you spend all of that money on these kids that you've never even fucking met. You buy them all kinds of things that you think they'd like to eat. You buy a baby gate, fucking safety shit for the doors. You buy all kinds of little toys. And then the next morning, you go to sleep that night. You think everything's pretty cool. You're a little bit stressed out about the situation because you've never met these kids and, you don't know how everything's going to go. And also, they're two toddlers. You have a 12-year-old. That's taking on a lot of extra responsibility. And they both are on the spectrum. Nervous because you also, want these kids to like you. And then, next thing you know, he has your number blocked and your son's number blocked. And hours have passed. And your son is trying to get hold of him, and he can't. And it fucking turns out that, so he blocked your son, he blocked you. And finally, his dad, who went with him to get the kids, answers and tells your son that he's in the hospital because he had a psychotic break. And you're confused because you're like, how could he have had a psychotic break? Everything's going pretty fucking normal in our lives. But then, the cops show up at your house, and you're like, that's fucking weird. I don't fuck with 12. And why would the cops show up here? Oh, they're doing a welfare check on your son. You're like, that's fucking confusing. And anyway, so your son talks to them, and you're like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, we don't know where dad is. What's going on with him? What the fuck happened? And then his dad, your ex-father-in-law, comes over and just explains to you that everything is probably going to be okay. Don't give up on him. He just had a little bit of a psychotic break. He's in the psych ward. He's on a, 72-hour hold because the stress of life just got to him too much. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. You know what? Been here before. We can do it again. And, it kind of calms you down. But then, bitch, the wife, the other baby mama, the one that he's currently in divorce proceedings with, texts you today and says, hey, Tasha, I know that you probably don't want to hear from me or you don't want to talk to me, but I just think you and I need to touch base because I'm hearing one thing and I don't know what you're being told. And I'm confused, right? Because I'm what do you mean? What she's being told? Apparently, what she was being told is that I was controlling his life and he was trying to escape me and that I was psychotic and that I held a gun to his head on Thanksgiving of this past year when we were at my brother's house. I don't even have a handgun to hold to his head. I'm just saying all kinds of stuff about me, which she saw through and immediately was like, not sending my kids with you, calling the cops. Anyway, so all that happens and there's a whole lot more. And also, you're pregnant. Yeah. Could that happen to anyone else, please? So now you're pregnant with a fucking psychopath's baby for the second time. And now you have to figure out what to do. And now everything that you've been told is a lie and you're just trying to weed through all of the lies and figure out what the fuck you're gonna do.
What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video, back in the confessional. And yes, we staying lit, big dog, man. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Shout out to my player partner, Lucky Wizard, Dizzy, keeps it lit. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comment section. Hit the link down below. We got HiveMindLaugh.com. And now, put a finger up the last time you heard me say HiveMindLaugh.com and you went to go purchase the item and then you put it in the cart and you cashed out your item and then you came to Everyday PJ and you was like, if I see another one of these, put a finger down videos where the lady never puts the fingers down, but she sits and holds us up for 10 minutes and tells us a story, and then we all hold her accountable for what she's doing, because knowing damn well she done brought a man back into her life, back into her kid's life, who didn't want her or the kid, and then ignored all the red flags from the beginning, and then ended up pregnant by the man again, but still didn't put your hand down till after the 10 minutes was up and you ran out of breath and didn't know what the story. Then when you came back to see everybody, nobody agreed with shit you had to say, and you in her defending yourself in the comments, talking about, oh no, I didn't do this and this happened and this happened, this, that, this, and that. Well, girl, sister girl, put a finger down if you said this is one of the videos that, you know, if Everyday PJ have another put a finger down, you know, I just can't do it. I can't take the put a finger down. The trend. It's always another put a finger down trend, and they always long and they always don't make sense, and it's always like, girl, you did that to yourself and all this stuff. Looking ass, boy, I tell you what. That's crazy, right? Yeah, man. So the people in this comment section, they really on it. They like, this could have been a 15-second video. You know what I'm saying? All your decision making is crazy. I mean, this woman took no accountability for making a stupid choice. Like, man, the man showed you who he was. He wasn't in his child's life for 12 years. Then you go back and be with him. He already got another woman pregnant. Well, I don't know. He ain't never seen the baby or whatever and all this other jazz. And you go use your money to go buy the kid something when he didn't buy your kid nothing for 12 years. I mean, help me make this make sense. You should have just left that man alone. Instead, you know how y'all be, you know what I'm saying? You just, when you find you an ex, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes y'all spin a block, and then y'all could just be friends and kicking it, and you just think of a cool person, like, oh yeah, man, kicking it, y'all get that spark of energy in your system. You be like, man, wouldn't it be like to have sex with her one more time? And then you just sit there and you decide, all right, let me hit that one more good time. Let me hit that. And then you do it. You hit it one more good time. And, well, now you end up with a baby. And then everybody be like, hey, I thought y'all was done with each other. No. You had to spin the block. And then you turn around and find out that that person is still the same person that made you leave them in the first place. It never fails. Every time you get back with an ex, you be like, oh, things might be different. You know what I'm saying? She grew up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Or he grew up a little bit. He got a little bit more mature. Then you go in there one day, he in there and playing this video game in his boxers. He been sitting there all day. Ain't bust a sud, ain't folded no clothes, ain't fed the kids, ain't did nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's stuff everywhere. And you be like, bro, what are you doing? And you realize, and then you go back into your mind when you was first with him 12 years ago, you be like, he on that same shit. Then you gotta look at yourself and be like, damn, man, I done messed up. Now I'm pregnant by him. And you break up with them because they go back to their family, block you on everything, block your kid on everything, show you exactly who he was before, and now you're trapped again. Everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm holler at you later. Peace.